Hi, welcome to Enjoy Living. My name's Daniela, and today I want to talk about self-care, particularly self-care during long-haul COVID and on the bad days. So if you have those bad days, you know what I mean. The days when the fatigue is really strong, when you have brain fog and it feels impossible to do anything, to have any coherent thoughts, when the muscle fatigue is there or the joint ache, and everything just feels like a challenge. So for me on these days, it's a challenge to even wash my face. So the last 2 weeks, I don't think I washed my face until about 5 p.m. because every little thing can feel so challenging. And it's very normal on these days to feel like life is passing by, like you have no sense of purpose, and very disheartening, very mentally challenging. So I want to share with you 8 small self-care tips that have really helped me get through those challenging, let's call them bad days. So it doesn't feel like the whole day, or sometimes it can be weeks of just passing by in a blur. Sometimes I call it the Netflix blur, and trust me, I have days when the majority of the time I'm just sitting there watching Netflix and not really doing much, but just having 1 or 2 things that I know are benefiting my health, or my mental health, my physical health, can really give me a sense of not only purpose, but a sense of improving, of being able to actually do something. So the first one, and it might seem quite obvious, but again, on those really challenging days, it can be hard. It can be hard to get out of bed. So number 1 is going for a short walk, and this might feel quite obvious, but as I said, on those bad days, and if you experience them, you know what I mean, it can be so challenging to have the motivation to put on your shoes and go for a walk. And sometimes I have to tell my husband, make sure I go, even if you have to drag me out. And even if it is a 5-10 minute walk and that's all you can manage, it's worth it. It really helps, not only physically, getting circulation, getting moving, but mentally, just having that fresh air, change of scenery, getting out, just being in a different room, not being in the same room all day. It just does wonders. And, sometimes it is challenging to go even for a short walk, especially if you have, the heavy, tight muscles and the joint pain. So on those days, I make sure that I will, for at least 10 minutes, sit with the door open. Unfortunately, we don't have a garden here, but if you have a garden, just sitting outside in the garden, even if you're bundled up in coats and hot water bottle, just to breathe in that different air, that fresh air, feel the sun on your face. It really is transformational. So number 2, and this one I really like, it's foot soaks. And this I found really easy to implement. Firstly, I bought myself a really cheap foot soaking bucket off Amazon. I think it was maybe £10. And I bought magnesium flakes. And so this means I could just sit down and do it anywhere. And I fill it up with warm water, add the magnesium flakes. And there are lots of health claims to do with foot soaking, but mainly I do it because it just feels really good. I found since getting COVID, my extremities, my hands, my feet get very cold, especially at night, almost ice blocks. That is so uncomfortable, it becomes hard to sleep. So I do this in the evening, and I find it just really helps warm my body, helps with circulation. And again, it just makes me feel like I'm doing something productive, I'm doing something that's benefiting my body. And that just is everything on those bad days. So number 3 is meditation. Now, I've had an on-off relationship with meditation for several years. I know it's good for me. I want to do it, but I don't commit to it on a daily basis. Again, since long COVID, I've really valued meditation. So I use an app which really, really helps me. And I use Insight Timer, and all I do is I set it for 10 minutes. I have music, I have gongs, so they go off. I think I have 2 gongs within that 10 minutes. So it helps bring back my focus, which I think is something I need, especially if you find you have a wandering mind. Having those intervals in the meditation to bring you back is a really, really nice assist. So I also do group meditations, so guided group meditations, and I do this with my dear friend Sari, and I'm going to link her below because she is so talented and she has such an archive of different meditations and different healing, guided healing meditations on YouTube, which you can practice. And then obviously you can also sign up to her online classes. So I do that 2-3 times a week, which has also really helped me in meditation. Commit to it and have a certain time in the day that I commit to it. It also gives me something to look forward to. And in her meditation, she welcomes you to lie down. So oftentimes I'm in my bed, I don't need to do anything. You don't even need to have your camera on. You don't need to, make any effort at all, but it's just something that helps break up the day. Again, something that you're doing that is benefiting both your mental and physical health. So self-care tip number 4, and this one I really love, and that's chanting. So again, I never chanted before this last year, but the longer I had long COVID and the less I felt able to do physical yoga practice, the more I started exploring other avenues for getting that same clarity, the same peace of mind yoga gave me. And chanting has really been invaluable. I've benefited so much for it. So again, I started off in a chanting class, found a fabulous teacher who taught online, and we do once a week chanting for an hour, and now I'm chanting almost on a daily basis. And not only does it give me that same feel I get through meditation, but actually I find it much easier to access, because it's not about being silent. You don't have to worry about thoughts because you have a focus, you have an activity that you're focusing on. But I've also found my breath, for my breath work, that you obviously have to control the breath during chanting, you have to elongate the breath. I found that it's really assisted in breathing, but also in reflux. So if you watch my previous video about long haul COVID, I suffered stomach ulcer and acid reflux issues afterwards. And chanting really, really helped with that, because you've got that diaphragmatic breath, you're working all the organs, and you also, I believe that you're also assisting with the parasympathetic, the vagus nerve down the neck. This whole area, it feels like this whole channel is being cleared out during meditation. Helps move all that stagnant energy, negative energy. It's just like a purely cleansing process and extremely uplifting. That's my experience, at least with chanting, and I highly recommend it. I've enjoyed this so much that I'm really considering incorporating chanting in my teaching, perhaps even doing a training in chanting. So that's number 4. Number 5, this one is a big one. So if you take one thing out of this video, it's this one, and that is rest. Rest even when you are not tired. That is probably the best tip that I have been given during this whole year-long process. So the way I see long haul COVID is, so after COVID, our body has been depleted. COVID really depletes our body. And there's a process, and I found this at least for the first few months, where you don't realize the impact it's taken on your body. You still have reserves of energy from previous. And so you kind of try and do as much as you can, thinking, stay active, stay healthy, things will improve. But I found the opposite happen. So I overexerted, I pushed myself, thinking, you got to stay active, try and do as much as you can. but in fact that depleted me, continued to deplete me until my default setting became 0. So if you imagine like a battery, your battery's drained, you're on 0. So every time you try to do something or push yourself, you go into negative and your symptoms flare up and you feel really unwell again and you kind of hit that rock bottom. So you rest, you get back to 0. And again, you try and do something and it takes you to negative. So when you start resting, even when you're not tired, you're resting when you have a little bit of battery power, a little bit of energy, so you can build up a little bit more and you can build up a little bit more. Unfortunately, you know, we feel a little bit better, we get excited, we want to do more, we want to do more, we want to do more, and it's very easy to end up in this yo-yo, which I have done for many, many months, where you feel better, you do stuff, you get knocked back again, you have to rest, you do a bit more, you get knocked back again. So rest even when you're not tired. Do less than you think you can. Commit yourself to less than you think you can do. Don't get to that point where you're pushing yourself, where you're tapping into that reserve energy because you don't have it. When you're tapping into that reserve energy, you're taking that vital nourishment and energy your body needs to maintain, to repair, to improve, to heal. And we can't afford to do that. We need to rest. And I think rest and napping, especially during the day, is a bit of a taboo subject. There's a lot of judgment around it. I know I judge myself a lot for resting, but we got to embrace it. We got to embrace those afternoon naps, because it gives it, we can struggle through the day, you know, we can struggle, you can stay awake the whole way through the day, but even though you're spending more time trying to do things, the quality and the speed in which you do them is going to suffer. You take that afternoon nap, you sleep for half an hour, whatever you need. Maybe you have a little bit less time in the afternoon, but you're going to feel refreshed, you're going to have a bit more energy, and what you accomplish in that time is going to be so much more than if you didn't nap. So napping, that's a big one. Napping even on the good days. Make it part of your plan, part of your daily routine. Pick a certain time in the day that suits you, and sometimes you have to work this around commitments and whatever it is, but whatever time works for you in the day, put it aside, and that is your napping time. And you don't need to tell people you're napping. You say, no, I have another commitment. Consider it a commitment. It's not self-indulging, it's not something to be ashamed of. It is a commitment you have made, and you can slot it out as nap time. So we're going to embrace napping. We're going to nap every single day. So number 6, and this is a challenging one, and that is to stop comparing yourself to other people and stop comparing yourself to yourself prior to COVID. And by that I mean, so a lot of the self-care practices we used to have, or other people are benefiting from, will no longer benefit us. So again, if I use myself as an example, I really enjoyed and found benefit from physical yoga practices. I still love Dharma yoga, rocket yoga, things that are very, very active and require a lot of physical exertion. But right now, that is the worst thing I could do for my body. Running, swimming, all those things that we get told, you know, are really healthy for us, are really beneficial. When we're recovering, when we're in this state of long-haul COVID, they're not going to help us. And it can be very challenging to come to the reality of that fact, to hear of other people talking how good they feel because they went for a run that morning. And it's so hard because you remember yourself and how you used to run, and then, you know, obviously being in such a different place now, knowing that not only could you probably not run, it will take you a long time to build up to where you used to be, but also knowing that running is not what your body needs and not what your body can handle. And that I've actually found quite challenging, you know, seeing friends, family really benefiting and thriving through physical activity, and knowing that that is not right for me right now, that my journey, my self-care routine is going to be a little different. So number 7, and this is quite a challenging one, and that is avoidance. So avoiding situations that you know are going to put you in an uncomfortable position, or are going to cause you to overexert and then backtrack or take that step back. And this can be, so I'll give you an example from my experience. I was offered a teaching position at a gym, and I really wanted this job. It's less than 10 minutes away from me, and I felt like it was a job I could really excel at. But I said no. And that was really, really hard. But I know that ultimately putting myself in that position where I was committing to something, I had to be there at a certain time, commit my energy and give 100% to those students, was something that was not going to benefit my health now. So avoiding situations as much as possible. So yes, there are limits, we do have to earn a living. But our biggest commitment right now is to our health. And I strongly 100% believe this, is that if we do not invest time and money in our health now, then illness will force us. It will force us to commit time later. We will not have a choice. If we do not commit now to improving, to healing, taking that step back out of life to rest and recuperate, then our bodies will force us to. So it really, really, as much as possible, avoiding any situations that will cause you to overexert, to tire yourself, to drain yourself, to give more than you can give. And number 8 is saying no. And this can be hard. It can be really hard having to break plans, commitments to people you care about, people you love. But it's so important to put yourself first. So what I found is that making plans in the future is really challenging at the moment, because you might be having a good day and think, yeah, it will be safe to make a plan 2-3 days time. But when it comes to it, you realize, no, I need to rest today, or I don't have the energy today, or I'm not feeling good today. And it will be so much more beneficial to cancel, to take that time to rest. But it can feel like you're unreliable. It can feel like you're letting people down, that you're becoming across flaky. It can be really hard to take that stand and say, no, I need this time. But the people who care about you, the people who love you, they will understand. And if someone feels like they really need help, or they really needed you that day, they will find someone else. There will be someone else who'll be able to step in and help them out. This is your time to take care of yourself. Because if you push yourself, and this is what I found, every time I pushed myself, I was like, no, I'll just do this. What's the harm? I'll be able to get away with it. I always suffered the following days. It's just not worth it. When your body tells you rest, you need to rest. So those are my 8 tips, and I really hope that some of them resonate with you, that maybe you find some of them helpful. And if you have any other tips that you have found beneficial, I would love to hear. All right, thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.